artist. We're gonna work, I'm gonna share some works from a Spanish artist who does some really interesting, an interesting style of work. And then I'm gonna do a demo, a Rust print demo, mainly because I know that it's not something that everybody will have access to all the things that they need in order to successfully do this, but I feel like the demo itself will help people maybe make some of these things. So let's start by looking at Armando's work. He is, hold on. So he's a really interesting artist who's Colombian, who lives in Madrid, Spain. And we're actually gonna look at this piece first. His work seems simple. He does do a lot of these interesting see-through canvases. He focuses a lot on bringing in mixed media papers, interesting things like even like a receipt that he has turned into collage fodder. And then he works on these really simple yet poignant illustrations. And it is a match. See, he loves the splatter. The splatter is a big part of what he likes to do with his work. This is another example where you can see where he has this dinner table with these chairs here. And then he's clearly like worked the background quite a bit. His bigger work, which is the work that we're looking at right now, is really beautiful. It is a slow process. So today's class is really a slow process. It's about not overthinking it, not making big grandiose marks, but working with really tiny, small marks. So we're going to talk about some of the different ways that we can do that. But really what I think is beautiful about his work, he also uses this fluorescent orange in just the minimalist way. It's definitely very wabi-sabi kind of minimal work, using what you have available to you and making it really special.
Yummy.
Collage work, which is what this stuff is really interesting to me because it's done with the same thing. It's done with things like rust water. It's done with coffee. It's done with ink and spray paint. These are all pages and pieces of paper that he has kept. I'm going to work with in my journal today and work with some older books that I have and go through some of these materials. But he works with even like the receipts that you keep out of your purse. He works with all kinds of things. He works with tiny little Instax printer, and I have one that I work with as well, where you can print out tiny little pages. It's these collage pieces that he creates entire stories. These are entire storylines that are made of basically collected paper fodder, simple continuous line drawings, and the exploration of materials. The reason that I think it's really interesting and what I think about a lot right now is his work reminds me of the ways that buildings break down. And what it makes me think about is the war in Ukraine. And, you know, we're having our first world war where we are watching it unfold live on Instagram and TikTok and media sources right now. You know, they just shared a bunch of photos of a husband putting his wife and family on a train, and they're like kissing through the window, and he's going back to have to fight, and she's just trying to get to Poland. She's not even going to get all the way to the Poland border on the train she's on. They're trying to get there faster than the Russian gets there. We haven't had to emotionally connect with war like this before. So this process, my thought on this process today is perhaps that we can think about simple things in our life, spend some moments that are micro rather than macro, and have some experiences about what that looks like. So I did want to start today with a Rust demo. See, he layers papers, like old papers, and there is something really, truly beautiful, devastatingly beautiful about the way this illustration shows out the top here. And yet, what are these words? He lives in Madrid, Spain. I took a class by him through Domestika, which is an international class website. So you take a lot of classes in other languages, and he speaks Spanish, he doesn't speak. And so, you know, it's probably in Spanish. Here's another example where, you know, he's got this recycle symbol with these dyed papers, with the background being just kind of this old book. And what does it really make you think about commodification and the way that, you know, recycling isn't really real in a lot of perspective, meaning that China just really bought all of our plastic and refuses now. So nothing is being recycled, you know, like his work is, and he creates these life maps.
It's
So
really emotional. I'm like,
really
oh,
emotional
you
work.
it.
It's messy
Oh,
work. He uses a lot of fabric, and he uses color very distinctly. The majority, I would say 90% of his stuff is done in sepia tones or blacks or charcoals. And then he has just this pop, this one piece of color. And those colors mean a lot. They are not to be disregarded. And his drawing style, you know, is very basic. It's not meant to be something that is difficult or extreme. It's meant to be something that we ponder a lot. I think, you know, part of his class was definitely thinking a lot about poetry, and how poetry relates to what we're doing, and how we can react to poetry. I think there's an intimate connection often between abstract art and poetry. Um, you know, we use verbiage all the time. So I am going to, so these are some rusty bits. So I live in a climate that, due to the salt water air, constantly creates rusty bits. Like, you can't keep things not rusty. My car leaks nonstop, even though I had no leaking problems in Portland. So we collect them. Okay. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do rust transfers. I'm going to try two right now. You can do it with fabric, like a cheesecloth. And then we're going to try it out on rice paper and see how different that looks. And then we're going to try it out. This is a regular 140-pound watercolor paper. So the general gist is that we're going to put water on top of this. The water is going to dry up and it's going to create rust marks. Those rust marks are their own language. You know, as I was talking about with Armando's work, it really is about dilapidation, the way that decay happens, about slowing down and that kind of thing. So I have a water bottle here that is half vinegar, half water. The key to getting the rust, really getting the rust out, is A, the rust having enough contact points on the paper, and B, using a vinegar water mix. So a really simple process where we're just going to spray it down and we're going to let it seep through. And as it dries, it's going to create marks. So this is a process I really like to do. I do it on white gesso board, which is just like really, it's called chipboard that they have gessoed. And it is like this beautiful process. I'll show you. I don't think I have any that have rust, actually. They're all graphite. It's a beautiful board for collecting these rust marks. So as you can imagine, the rust is going to come off. The whole thing with the vinegar is that the vinegar encourages the rust to rust a little bit. Trying to think, I got this weird thing right here. We'll put this in here and see if it does anything. We, Audrey and I, are avid collectors of rusty pieces. I may have actually put too much water and not enough vinegar. Even though I can smell the vinegar, I can tell that the rust is not taking the same way. However, we're going to try wrapping it. So I've got, oh, you got a new piece. Look at this bad boy.
It's got a bunch of sediment on it.
Oh man, so we're just going to add it in
Ooh,
there. I know.
what a great shape.
This is how it comes out at our studio. We are constant collectors. You know, railroad tracks are a great place for a lot of this kind of stuff. And like I said, Astoria is just constantly like rusting down. I don't think I put enough vinegar in it. How disappointing. Well, we'll still work with it a little bit. Because you can definitely make marks. There's still, you can see the rust is coming off of this one because you can see the marks are beginning to be made. I am always kind of a fan of the seeping marks because I feel like you get the outline of the shape and that kind of thing. And it's a really kind of an exciting thing. However, a lot of people like to wrap rusty pieces. And so we're going to try this in rice paper instead of fabric. I've never done this before. I thought this might be a fun thing for us to try and see what happens. I'm just gonna take it, it's wrapped up here, and I'm gonna soak it through. It's already creating imprints on the paper, just from having already been soaked in the vinegar and water. And then we're just gonna let it do its thing. This really is a time lapse kind of thing. It's not something that's going to happen very quickly. And I can tell you from personal experience, letting it fully dry is always kind of the best thing. Man, we're really struggling today. I'm gonna have to get some more vinegar in a little bit. And we're gonna let that just kind of chill and be its own thing. So like I said, there are several parts to the kind of work that Armando creates. And today we're gonna work on some of them. So some of it is about choosing papers and things that mean something to us, but that are old and maybe need a new life. So I think you know this because I think we talked about it when I made my sketchbook, which will be the thing that I'm building into today. I'm a collector of old books. I generally like to have like one, and they're always books that are about a subject that I'm interested in. This particular book is about crop management and soil conservation. I'm a big gardener. So that kind of thing is just naturally interesting to me. And this one is a medical dictionary. Obviously anything to do with the body or, you know, just kind of the current state of health is interesting in here. You get all kinds of weird, this is like a pregnancy table, which is, I guess, perfect. We could definitely talk about all kinds of things with that weirdness, right? Okay, so I usually just kind of do it with a randomness. Interesting, this one is a kidney, considering the guy that we take care of for hospice is having kidney issues.
Oh,
You know, this is what we're gonna go through. We try to have conversations as a kind of a care team about, you know, this is a hard process that we're going through. It's only going to get harder though.
mhm.
And what does it mean to help each other process the emotional part? Audrey's mom obviously has a different experience because of her age. She's actually only 5 years younger than him. And to watch somebody die and watch their body fail them and be that close in age is a really traumatic thing. So I am, just in case you wanted to know what I'm doing right now, I'm making little marks with my rest pieces just to kind of stain this paper a little bit. Oh, that one's interesting. It's leaving some interesting things. So some of the other things I am going to bring to this conversation is some of my other favorite kind of weird tools. Seed varies in quality. Ooh. This is genetically modified, I assume. So I've got these 4 pieces of paper right here. So I'm just going to start with these 4 pieces of paper. You can start with regular paper too. So when we looked at Armando's work, it really was about like the minutia, simplistic things. And his creation, we once kind of talked about creating collage fodder. That was a couple of weeks ago.
Mhm.
This is a little bit more than that. We're creating collage fodder, but we're not using a lot of color. And it's about Mark. We're going to obviously, I'm thinking about this silly movie I saw when I first got COVID. I made the mistake of watching a sad romantic comedy. Not a rom-com, a sad romantic movie. I think it's called a romantic drama, where the 2 stars of the show have CF. Cystic
Oh, yeah,
fibrosis.
yeah. I remember you talking about it, and I know what film you're
Yeah.
talking about. Yeah.
So it's 5 feet apart. And I think that one of the reasons that the movie really got me was that I was dealing with COVID. My partner could not come home
Right.
because I was sick and we could not get Will sick. And I had similar symptoms to CF. Ultimately, how most CFers die is one of 2 ways. One is that there is a complication from a lung transplant. And the other one is that they genuinely just
They
suffocate.
drown in their
their own
lungs. Yeah. Yeah.
But in the movie, there's this line that I think about a lot, which is, this disease is a prison, and thinking about health and human existence, and probably honestly watching what Will's going through, I'm thinking about this disease is a prison and how that might come into play in this whatever that we create today. So our job today is going to be making some of these papers that, you know, we're going to focus on small drips, small illustrations, using graphite to work through, and then creating a small collage out of it. So you can do the collage one of two ways. You can do it his way, which is what I call stacking, because that's what it kind of looks like to me, which is like, you know, he stacks multiple pieces of paper that have images and tries to really focus what you're doing. Or you can do it the Claire Oswalt way, which is really small square image that you've taken very small pieces from other things and created them together, like put them together like a fabric quilt. So I got all my tricks today. I got my coffee. I got my tiny little spray bottle of bright blue, apparently is the color I'm using. I got my charcoal powder. I got my graphite in a can, and I've got some walnut inks. And then of course I got my rust. So,
Walnut inks, yum, yum.
right, well, it's a little bit further off than we normally do, but the idea here is we're going to use decay and the process of making something artificially decay as our collage material, and then, you know, use illustration as our way of moving through it. So, you know, this is really just an intuitive process of kind of destruction. I kind of like it. It's a very playful thing, but like, as you saw his work is very, it's very emotional. So
It is, and
it's very
strange
emotional.
narrative and like capturing the sort of mundane. Anyway, sorry, I'm thinking about it a lot.
It's work that haunts me on a regular basis.
I can see it.
Instead of creating a coffee liquor like I normally do and then working with that, I'm actually going to work with the drops of coffee. You can see them here.
Mhm.
And I'm going to wet them down and let them create their own marks. And I think that, you know, I've gone through the coffee thing before. This is one of the ways that we can do this, because it dissolves and it becomes its own kind of globular experience. It's going to be very interesting to see on this weird pregnancy table how this kind of comes into being. But this is about small movements, not overdoing it, letting things get kind of dirty is what I would say, and seeing how that work and that beauty can be transferred. So this is going to go, it's going to be a lot of drying time. I have my trusty tin pan here to put things in as they dry. So let's talk about the illustration. This is also a great opportunity for folks who are really ruminating on the war. You know, the sunflower, we talked a little bit about this last week, but the sunflower has become a symbol of hope. It's the national flower of Ukraine, and there is of course the story going about the Ukrainian old lady that told
Told the Russian soldiers to put sunflower seeds in their pockets so flowers would grow when they died.
Right, which is just, I mean, horribly brutal concept of what, you know, the reality of war. But it's also this kind of stuff is a great opportunity for us to use simple symbols like that. So the illustration that that he uses a lot is, you know, taking a piece of paper like this that is, that is already got like words and images, and then we're just going to do a single line, continuous line drawing on it. And you can use any materials. I'm using this weird pencil that I have. It can be kind of hard because it's fat and I can't control it very well. I'm a big fan of that. You can't really see it. So we're going to go to this chalk that I have. This is a different kind of graphite. And then it's just a continuous line. So we, he had one that was the hangers, we know that the hangers are a symbol of abortion, like pro-abortion, because they're
Mhm.
old school way of doing abortion. There are lots of symbols that exist that you can use. And sometimes it's also just a drawing of place, of mind. I have been kind of ruminating a lot on hickory shirts because Will would wear a hickory shirt every day. I mean,
What's
he's
a
got like,
hickory shirt?
so hickory shirts are those, they zip up right here and they are blue and white striped and they have two pockets, one here and one here. They're worn by fishermen, which is why
Mhm.
Will wears them because he's an old fisherman. And they're worn by loggers. So you probably wouldn't see a lot of them in where you are.
Yeah,
They're
probably not.
thing. Right. Okay. So we're essentially creating all of these small moments that we're going to tie together in some kind of storytelling experience. As I said before, you got one of two options. You could do the stacked collaging like he likes to do. Don't be afraid to bring in some color pops, obviously. Just keep, be considerate of them and be minimal. This is a watered down watercolor that I put in a spray thing. And then again, just gonna move it over to my tin. Okay. And so you have the option of doing the stacked thing, or the other option is creating a template for yourself that's a small square, and then working through your collage material. Let me get out my sketchbook for you. Of course, then I put my tin on my sketchbook because what else would I do with it? Sorry. Okay, so here is my sketchbook. I talked about it before that I had been making it. So I have been working on some of this collage material. You can see where I've collected maps that I have put white on. We started to make some of this work before. And then the other option is piecing together collages like this that are like little squares that go together. The idea though with Armando's work that is different is he brings a lot of the illustrated concepts in, these images and these drawings that might be small or minute, but that are really, symbolic in some way. So don't worry if you don't have, see, this looks completely different because it's, I'm drawing on acrylic that is on the paper that I gessoed. So it draws a lot nicer, but it's big and fat. So it's kind of just, kind of a meditative process in this way. I think you should choose one color, in my opinion, and stick to the one color as your color. So go sepia tones, black and white and graphite, and then the one color. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna go scrounge. I can still hear you, so you can keep
go for it.
talking.
I'm gonna unwrap this rust bit here. Oh yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yes. And what's nice about it, having done it on the rice paper, in particular on this one, is that rice paper, when used in a collage, is often kind of translucent. You can use different adhesives to get it down, and then it kind of becomes this secondary layer. So as we're creating all of this interesting collage stuff today, it'll be great to see how this plays into it. The rust prints, obviously, as you can imagine, always have quite a bit of just kind of minutia on them. They're kind of dirty, in other words. Here is what is happening over here in Rustlandia. You can see my paper has lots of different marks. At this point, I'll probably remove some of my rust pieces and start to sop up the water because the paper underneath it is going to have to dry in order for me to be able to use it. And then I'm probably going to cut it into smaller squares. I'm going to do two examples today. I'm going to do a stacked collage similar to Armando's work. And then I'm going to actually work on a tiny square collage so you can see how that might play out. Give me a moment though, because I do got to go get my paper towels so that I can sop up some of this work. something that is quite, can be quite fun about this process as well is as you're using the paper towel to sop up the kind of vinegar water, you have the opportunity of it also dyeing the towel and creating kind of a secondary piece of material. We kind of talked about this once with the larger mark making, that this can be a kind of addictive process of just what happens if I do this? What happens if I do that? Oh, sorry.
Get out again. Phone, what are you doing?
It's being, it lasted for so long without this.
I did good. Doing better.
Okay, now we got to do this whole thing again. Sorry, everybody. This was a fight. This is a fight we've been having all day. I am the champion. I am the winner. If I say it enough, it'll happen, maybe. But so this in itself, similar to the rice paper, might come up and look kind of nice. I'm probably actually going to keep, in the success of using the rice paper before, I'm going to keep making some rust transfers by wrapping things in the paper and just to see what they do. We'll use this interesting piece that Audrey brought to us and we will wrap it. It's already kind of wet, which is nice because it makes the paper bond to it. And then we will spray it down with our water. I think a lot, I do a lot of this kind of work, this kind of mixed media when I'm traveling or working on artist residencies, because it speaks so much to the location. You're using things that are specifically found or modified there. I'm always interested in what kind of weird old books places have and that kind of thing, and how it might be interesting to use them in creating things. So now we're going to let that dry. So I did wipe this off, and we're going to take it apart and see. I'm going to untape it because I think I'm going to use it in smaller pieces and see what comes of it, I've got some water soluble oil pastels here that I think I'm going to use. Been thinking about the color I'm going to use today. I'm probably going to use this bright yellow. Oh man, this Cambium foam. Seriously. It's doing the same thing again where it turns off.
Stop it, bad phone.
I know, it's.
Ah, she started it again.
Looks like I got booted off.
Right? I was like, Leah's just gone all of a sudden in the back.
I don't know what happened there. Sometimes that happens. Like, it's not the fantastic. I see your cats are all over you, like
Oh,
all over me today.
needy little boogers.
Did you see her poor little teeth? This one has no teeth left.
Oh, poor Mooka.
So sometimes like her, she's got like 6 teeth left. So sometimes her little lip will curl up and it looks like she's snarling, even though she totally isn't. I'm sorry, sweet. I'm not laughing at you.
Yes,
She's
you are.
totally laughing at you.
I am not my baby girl. I love you. I'm so sorry.
I don't have any rest on coffee and things.
Sorry, we're discussing what might be the problem with the phone.
Oh, okay.
See, Cambium, hold on. Well, this is excellent. Sorry, everyone. See, it's hot again.
Yeah, it is.
And I feel like last time I changed the cord, but maybe I didn't. Okay, I have tech support here.
Can I leave Zoom?
Mhm. And she's gonna try and work on, ooh, hello.
You upside down, girl.
Right, she's gonna work on this a little bit. I'm gonna continue to work on my paper. I did send some images to the WhatsApp group, so you guys can always check out the WhatsApp group. You can see how the rust paper came out. I've added a couple of yellow dots just to kind of give it some personality.
I'm leaving.
She makes it sound so dramatic when she leaves. I'm leaving. And
Mhm.
interestingly, this page that I made, this display page where I did little square. See how beautiful it is? Kind of weird. The little drips.
Yeah.
And then this other page. Gets kind of the extra spray off of some of the other things. And then it's got this little square right in the middle. It's really kind of delicate and tiny. It'd be really an interesting piece. I'm probably going to reduce its size just because I want it to be smaller. The idea, you know, the thing about abstract art is that you can change the rules kind of consistently to keep yourself doing something interesting. Today's rule is going to be that we're working on something that's a little smaller. The intention is about leaving some of that negative space. What does it mean when a piece has room to breathe? Can feel uncomfortable as artists to leave stuff that empty, but it's a good challenge, I think. Here's this one. You can see this beautiful paper. And then we'll see if I can use adhesive to keep kind of part of the square that's really interesting out, maybe put it on this or maybe not. We're gonna let it continue to dry. We've got this bad boy going. And then see about adding a little bit of fun to it. My walnut inks are sprays, which is interesting because you can spray over top of something like I just sprayed the rusty piece on my wrapped up piece of rust. What we're going to find is a little halo has been created, which is going to be really beautiful.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, when we pull that off, it's going to be a really interesting thing. The walnut inks are really nice in that way that you can create. They're very easy to do that kind of thing with. And I think they probably work the same way that most alcohol mixed with inks works, where you can modify it that way. I created another one. I'm a very moon-based person. So I find this kind of almost symbolic moon that it's creating to be very interesting. I have walnut ink, I have eucalyptus ink, and terracotta. They're just 3 different colors of walnut ink that they mix with other things. One is redder, one is brown, and one is green.
So you've got earthy Christmas going.
You know, that's what it boils down to. I used to be much more of this style of mixed media artist, where it's just kind of finding things and working with those things and creating with kind of the raw materials. And so I had all kinds of weird things like spray walnut ink and stuff like that. And I don't have a lot of that anymore. Okay, so this is what we look like coming off.
Ooh.
Kind of interesting. We have these like interesting marks where the thing was folded over and we did the spray. And again, like the other piece, we're gonna let this dry. Luckily, the rice paper dries fairly quickly. I do have a great piece of paper over here. It's drying slowly, not as quickly as I would like it to dry so that I could work with it, but it's going to be a really nice, colorful kind of signature piece, I guess you could call it. And then the coffee one is drying. Very interestingly. I'm also, something I'm gonna do for myself is I'm gonna take a brayer and white paint over a couple of pages just to give myself some basic backgrounds. Here's the blue piece. You can see where it's soaking through itself. It's interesting in that way. And then we'll see what we can create together with all of these. I'm gonna go back to my sketchbook because I think that's where I'm gonna work in this. I have worked hard to create some basic easily modified pages. We just got to work through this stuff that's already been worked on, where I have, as we previously learned about, put them in my sketchbook, but I have lots of interesting different kinds of paper, hand bound, way fun. And then we're gonna use some of our materials today in these sketchbooks as we work on this a little bit. Audrey is updating the phone, seeing if we can get it working again. If we can't get it working again, this is what we're gonna do today.
That's fine.
Reason. Yeah.
Honestly, as long as you keep sending stuff across the thread later, Holly can edit it into the video. So
Yep.
if you can hold it up or send it across, that's great.
The link is in the text message to myself. You'll see that it's the last Zoom link. You have to go through all the photos and stuff I've sent back and forth. Sorry. It's not the most efficient system. Here's something interesting. So there was walnut ink on top of that.
June.
Might be, yeah.
Ooh, that's pretty. It's like
So
a
some little marks on this kind of paper that when you Mod Podge, it is essentially transparent. It's doing the drying dance though. In your pants, the drying dance. Nobody questions my sanity, at least.
Oh, yes, we do. Kidding. Completely kidding.
That's okay. I question it all the time. I'm definitely the closest I've ever been to full mental breakdown.
Yeah.
This is coming out nice. Look at this little stain.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It looks like a uterus.
It is International Women's Day.
All
Yeah.
right. Happy International Women's Day.
It always feels like a weird day, like we get one day out of 365.
Yes.
But I guess it's part of Women's History Month. What am I talking about? Yeah. Okay, it looks like we might be almost coming back into business. I just need to actually choose to add spotlights. Oh, look, there we are. So I
Ooh,
got-
I love that. The blue, is that blue and rust or blue and ink? That's
It's
blue
blue
and the,
and ink and rust. So it's been
Yeah,
kind
that
of
is
layered
nice.
together. We'll see. We'll see if it works. Obviously, as you can tell, I've decided to go with this cerulean blue with these kind of sepia tones colors today. Something interesting about that. And then obviously this bright yellow is always a big fan favorite of mine. Gonna work on some of this. I planted my seeds in my garden yesterday. Mondays are my new day off because the coffee shop's open all weekend, you know? And I'm trying really hard with a kind of this hectic schedule and this kind of chaos that we have in our life of like doing like small things for myself that make me feel good. And so I know that tonight going into tomorrow is our only night of potential freezing. So that reminds me, I need to put a tarp on the garden bed tonight so that my new seeds don't get frozen. But it was just kind of this thing that I was thinking about. I was thinking about like with all the disruption in Ukraine, that people that this is an important time of planting and growing food wise, and how Ukraine's just going to miss out on a whole season because they're disrupted. It's destroyed. What does this mean for food production in Ukraine?
Well, I was just listening to the news before we started, and Russia is the world's largest producer of grain, and Ukraine is the 5th largest producer of grain. So this is going to cause damage to the entire world in terms of food.
Yeah.
You know, this is where war really comes into play, you know, when it's so disruptive. And oh my God, have you read so I torture myself by following this guy, Richard, what's his name? He was for several presidents, the director of economics or something like that. And he educates people on labor practices and things like that. And he's adamantly against senators being allowed to trade stock.
Yes, which makes sense.
Insider trading. And it's interesting because Marjorie Green Taylor, or whatever her name is, the second that they heard about the potential of war, went out and got a bunch of stock in companies that are like
She's profiteering.
She's profiteering. And it's a very common practice. It was a big problem during COVID. And then she comes out and politically makes a statement about, you know, how Biden's just doing this because it's good for business, while simultaneously.
Oh my God, she's so full of shit.
She
Sorry.
really
Oh, you're recording,
is
sorry.
a piece of fucking work.
So it makes me, I just think about how many different people's lives are being destroyed, homes being completely demolished.
Oh, beautiful historic buildings.
And oh my God, did you see them pulling all of the artwork?
Ugh,
Heartbreaking.
it's awful.
Protect the artwork, because, you know, artwork is always something that in war.
Except that in Odessa, it's Russian artists they're protecting. They're like, this is crazy. We're protecting Russian art from Russians. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
They haven't got to Odessa yet. That woman was leaving Odessa that they took the photo of, and they were talking about how the Russians were on their way, but they were trying to get them out. But that photo could have been from a couple of days ago, you know. So I use this bright yellow and these hints of blue as I'm thinking about kind of what's going on there. This is going to be an interesting piece because, you know, this image is subtle. It's really quite small, but it's also impactful. And I don't want this giant yellow piece to kind of overlap too much. So I'm probably going to actually trim it down, make it a little bit smaller so it's less destructive, so to say. Sorry.
Oh, doggies.
Sorry, somebody tried to come in our studio. He doesn't belong in here. My dog did not like it. So I put it down a little bit. And now you can see where it's not quite overtaken up so much, and it's still quite nice. I have worked with this little piece that we created, and I'm going to take an image of it for the WhatsApp because I kind of used the yellow almost to create a little sun. You can see the blue sky, and you can see how the walnut ink kind of creates kind of an atmosphere even. And then we're going to work with that atmosphere in this yellow piece, kind of in this blue, as we, you know, we contemplate this all. I may come in with a drawing to go through it. I may not. It's just really going to depend. It's looking quite nice. This looks quite nice, but we need to figure out. Oh. Sorry about the dog disruption.
Oh, how dare you? How dare you?
Right, our cats have been like rolling around.
My cats would never interrupt my making art. As Inkling is like begging to be up on my lap right now.
Right. Begging, begging.
I'm making art right now.
You're right. So I sent a couple images through the WhatsApp so you can see kind of close-ups. Starting to work into incorporating some of my other papers. This one. It's drying quite quickly, which is nice. Here comes another person. I'm gonna mute it real quick.
Okay. Barky, barky, barky. Barky, barky, barky.
Okay, so now we're continuing to move through this collage a little bit. It's really kind of weird. It's atmospheric, I might call it, somewhat poetic. So this is more the stacking method where I'm working on the images coming together more from stacking on top of each other than working like a little quilt. So I did end up ditching kind of the yellow thing that I ended up making, mainly because I have this tiny little spot of yellow and it's really quite beautiful. It feels like enough, you know, and then I've got this yellow ball. Feels very sunsetty sunset. It reminds me a little bit of like how amazed I was when the first time I saw Star Wars.
Yeah.
You know, with the different atmospheric, I would say games that they played to make it look like it's another world.
Uh-huh.
So,
That was like
big
definitely a
deal
pivotal
back then.
experience. Yes.
It's a big deal.
Big deal, totally.
It's funny to watch it, you know. I can't stand some of the newer Star Wars just because the effects don't feel like that first one, you know.
The
Right.
first one, it was about, I mean, the effects were kind of like,
Laughable now.
yeah, but like. It was
That's what made them good, you know? It's like
and also we
like
were
the hand-drawn stuff.
we were little when it came out. So our incredulity,
Exactly.
you know, our incredulity was like, that's our baseline for what felt like so awe-inspiringly real.
We're gonna let this glue down a little bit. It's being kind of finicky, so we're gonna let it dry and glue down. Then I'm gonna talk a little bit about kind of this process, the process of creating little tiny collage quilts. Sometimes I'll even draw a square for myself when I'm doing this practice. I'm just gonna find a good page in my book. Woo, blowing stuff away. But essentially, it is about taking the best parts of the pages that you've been making and making them into something small. We're gonna go with this yellow thing here. This is an interesting piece of this, I really think. Oh, look how nice that's gonna look. I should probably get some heftier glue for this process. But then I kind of want to bring in some of that blue, you know. This one is taking forever to dry, which is making me feel bonkers, but that's fine. Patience isn't one of my better qualities. Growing seed on the farm. That's what it says. So now we'll work towards this kind of interesting little square. I'm gonna get myself some glue, see if I can help myself out. I'm hilariously limpy because I started running again yesterday. And, my body is dealing with some shock.
I gardened yesterday, like, heavy duty shoveling,
Yeah.
going, and I woke up this morning going, fuck, oh my God.
Yeah. We really put a lot of work in last year. So this year was fairly minimal, just a little bit of weeding. I do have to put in some more bark mulch, which will be kind of more rigorous, but that's not for a bit yet.
I know you did all your major bed building
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah, I remember though, like I had to dig up the ground and stuff. It was intense. It does, it makes you feel old.
But it's good. It feels really great.
Oh yeah, it's good for you.
It feels amazing. It's just like, whoa.
There's some real, there's really a lot that you get from putting your hands in dirt.
Yep,
I love that.
true. That is so true.
I love working in the garden,
Yeah.
which kind of sucks when you live in New York City, but
I was gonna say, what are your gardening options in New York City?
well, I used to have a cabin in the Catskills.
Nice.
That I loved going up there, but we haven't been able to do it for the last couple of years because of COVID, but we have a small community garden here. We have like 4 big planters that we plant.
In your building?
Yeah, out on a patio area.
Nice.
A community garden was the first real gardening I ever did. Our community gardens in Oregon are probably a little different though. Actually, my favorite gardening book is made in New York City, and it's called Gardening Anywhere. And what I like about it is it's meant to be like, you don't have to have huge plots of, land.
Right.
Right.
It's a different perspective, which is really nice.
It's pretty great though.
Yeah. Interestingly, the blue has leaked through with the glue on this one. It looks quite fun. It's like tiger stripey. This whole process is just really about exploration. Oh yeah, Jeannie. I like what you got going on.
Thank you. Inkling, I love you, but you gotta go away.
Nope, Mom.
Oh my God, those are yummy. Sorry, I haven't been looking. Wow.
Leah's fired.
Firing myself.
I would like to just start firing people.
You fire me.
No, I don't know what I'd fire you from right now.
Ah,
Okay. I do need to get scissors out so I can trim this one down because I don't like it going out of my box. Are you laughing at the way I'm moving?
Yeah. Not laughing at like it's funny, but like.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that looks like it's miserable.
It's because sitting too long makes me jam up. Okay. This one's cute. Cute as heck, all done up. now we're done. Okay, now we're gonna go
Yes.
other one.
Cute. It is cute.
I do a similar kind of collage as like a scrapbooking memory making process with
Mhm.
different kinds of papers for my life or photos, you know. Probably could have helped myself by taking this off.
So is the coffee shop kind of building up slow and steady?
Yep. I think in no time we'll be good to go. I mean, the gallery took time to build up too.
Yeah.
Actually, I think I want this one. This. Really will remind myself to get glue sticks because I do not have any. I think they're probably all at home from. Okay. Let you rest a little bit. Okay, now we're back to this guy.
Oh, that is starting to look nice, Jeannie. I like that. What is that music from a composition from theater that you've done or?
It's actually music from the show that's going to be Thursday night, which is why I won't be in art class on Thursday night. I've been directing it.
Oh, how exciting.
Yeah.
I didn't know you directed.
She's
Yep.
she's a total actress. It's her first art. Actor, director.
I was in high school. College just didn't. I think I took one class in college and I was just like, you know. I have friends that are in the whole scene building thing.
Bubbles. Bubbles is now licking the coffee grounds off my pieces.
Well,
She's going to be up all night.
Lucas is looking at me like injured. Like, why did you do this to me? How did it come to this?
I'm gonna go wash my hands. I can't do anything because I'm sticky. Sorry, I got my hands like too sticky to work anymore.
Leave me a note.
Right? Got this weird little yellow basket in this one. That's what it feels like. Some little cute little rust marks. I think I'm going to add this little circle that I have here. So I'm going to do this. Again, I'm using Mod Podge as my adhesive, which is not ideal in this situation. A glue stick is ideal only because I don't have a glue stick. Ran out, which is not that surprising. I think that something that is hilarious is that I have been in the habit of cleaning the studio the day that I have class so that it's a little more organized.
Mhm.
And then I'll have class and I'll just trash the studio during class. And then it's trashed for the rest of the week.
Oh, nifty. So Krista, you're meeting with the jurors today, you said, right?
It's only going to be half an hour.
Well,
Go over the rubric, introduce ourselves, and then they have requested this to jury on their own time.
oh, which is how we normally have done it in the past.
No, it didn't work the last time we did it.
Well, you didn't do, we didn't, but in the, over the many years, we have usually, they usually are given a, I mean, we had to do it through cafe and it was fucked up, but they'd be given a time period and then they do it on their own time. It never works very well.
This jury set seems pretty committed to doing it.
Yeah, good.
Look at Jean go. This one's looking kind of interesting and cute. I don't know. I'm obviously in some kind of spring mood. Everything is reminding me of spring, which maybe I'm just desperately dying for
You're
spring.
just desperate for it.
Yep. You can see where the, in this most recent picture that I just provided, you can see how the paper is kind of translucent in places where it's attached. And you can see the marks underneath coming through the paper, which is really fun. Sometimes with this kind of work, it can feel like, when is it done? You know,
Right.
that can feel like a hard decision to make, but I think that this piece is looking pretty done. My heart really loves it. And it looks very interesting with this other piece that I got to continue to work on right here. They look interesting together. I like to work on multiple pieces at once that kind of look like they share a theme. I was talking to a client this last week who was in the gallery, and we were talking about my work in the gallery, and we were talking about just this different symbols that are in the, it was a piece that was about COVID. It's got a gold leaf full moon because I was diagnosed with COVID on the full moon. And the customer asked me, like, is your work always symbolic? And it surprises me how often I find symbolism in the work that I'm doing.
But your work is all, I see that as very integral part of your work.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it plays that's a simplistic way of, saying it. It has a more complex set of things, but that's what I think of when I think of you.
Well, it's because it's a documentation process, right? And abstract work is about like taking the time to be present and experiment and try new things. These little pieces look so interesting together. My little sketchbook here. I really have quite the mess though, my friends. Okay. I'm going to take a picture of them together. There they are. Little seasons.
Oh, yeah, they are sweet together. Very nice.
Now we have one more piece or one more part of the original rust paper right here.
Did you say you were going to put it back into your journal, or?
Yeah, I will usually, one of them is in my journal. These two are not, but this one is actually in the sketchbook.
Okay.
And then the other ones I often will just glue down,
Right.
when I have the appropriate glue type. Because I'm going to keep my journal forever, And if I like a piece or a couple of pieces, then it's best to just put them somewhere they're going to survive.
Right, where you can find them
Mm-hmm.
and refer to them as needed.
Especially like this year, it's a lot more journal work than past years. So. And they look beautiful together. They're all like responsive to each other. And then something else I got out for myself in this whole process as well that is, so I want to preface before I talk about this, that I never really learned how to do any kind of mending or stitching or anything like that. I've only kind of made my own kind of up, but I like to sometimes sew on these pieces as well, you know? And then you got some tangible kind of 3D element. I think one of the things you're going to find, Leah, for this year's applicants,
Yes, I was just thinking about them as you were talking. That's interesting.
so
Yes,
many non-2D, not
lovely.
3D, but like all kinds of craziness.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just got a note from Travis Pond, just wrote to me and said, oh, did I forget about Open Studio?
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, you did.
I have got
I
3.
don't suppose I could, and I'm like, nope. Sorry, honey. And he
Sorry,
went,
it already went to jury.
yeah, he said, damn, I talked some people into it, and then I just forgot to do it, and I'm like, I always put a note in my,
Also, you're on every email list that was emailed 40 times.
he has no excuses, but I said, put a note in your calendar. It's put a note on the last day of February 2023. And he said, I'm totally doing that. And I'm like, just do it now, and then it'll remind you that you need to apply.
Um,
Like aggressive or anything about it. He was
I understand.
bummed.
I'd be bummed.
And you know, there was this kind of like little like, can you maybe make an exception for me? And I was just like, nope.
I got several people who moved here from other places and didn't know the process and missed it.
Mhm. Nope.
Oh, man.
Sure.
This- Okay. This is interesting where my ink kind of came off on the other side of my sketchbook over here. Kind of pre-starting some work there. Okay. Safely secured. Now we're going to come back to looking at some of these pages that we started that are still drying to see how we like them. With our coffee, some of the different stuff. This blue piece that we used a section of, but we could definitely better use the full piece. This half of the thing that I did from the other, I cut the page in half, is interesting because it's got just one tiny little yellow dot. You know?
Nice.
Okay. This weird pregnancy table cracks me up.
Is it like when you're fertile or what is
It's
it?
to find the date of the first day of the last menstrual period in the top line, and the date below this will be the expected date of delivery.
Wow.
Interesting. If you got pregnant on January 1st, October 8th would be your expected date of delivery.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my brother like was in the womb for almost 11 months.
Are you serious?
I'm not kidding. You know, it was before they like induced, right? So like they just kept waiting. My mom said he was born in like 1 hour from start to finish. Just
Mhm.
yes. I was 6 weeks early and screaming and late at night and inconvenient for everybody. Danny was just like, yeah, I'm waiting.
He's like, I'm not gonna make the mess my sister did.
I am not gonna go rushing into anything.
Is that a personality characteristic?
Absolutely.
A turtle from the beginning.
First and think later kind of person, and he's like I am gonna wait a really long time before I try anything.
I'm going to overthink.
Or yeah, talk myself out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that works for him, and sometimes it could work for me. I could do better with that.
There's so many smells in this one, from the coffee and the rust and the vinegar.
Actual smells that you can smell.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the interesting things about kind of this process when you work with vinegar and when you work with coffee, it brings another set of senses in, which always creates interesting work,
Yeah.
This one has some really lovely rust marks that once the adhesive for this dries, it's going to be really nice.
Trying to do my final set of drips on this burn piece. It's behaving a lot differently than any of the others I've done. So I'm like, think we're almost there. So I'm taking in whatever, I'm letting the abstract take me where it needs to go.
Sometimes you can't change it, accepting it's your best option.
Uh-huh.
So this is a really hilarious piece, I have to tell you. I use this page from that. This is why I keep these funny books around, from the Soil and Sample book. It says growing seeds on the farm. And then it talks about an ample supply of phosphorus hastens maturity. And then it's all about fertile soils. And then below it is a pregnancy table.
That's fantastic.
Oh, Gene, you went into it.
Wait, let me see.
I like it. That yellow in there, the blue.
These are magic, you guys. I'm really enjoying these.
This one's hilarious, Audra. It's a pregnancy table. Some of these little pieces, though, that I made that are like cast-offs are really interesting as well. Pieces that didn't fit into other parts of it. I think this is probably how Armando ends up with entire walls of this stuff.
Kind of addicting.
It is kind of addicting.
Well, it's a great way to take something small to sort of find the symbolic in it. You know what I mean? Like to let your senses kind of take you there. A manageable task.
So I have a question.
I have an answer.
Just look at the last one I just sent.
Okay, going in.
I wanted some darker, so I put some dark at the top,
Mhm.
but I think it takes the eye out of the picture. Is that?
Something you can do for yourself when you're trying to figure that out.
Mhm.
Have you ever blurred your eyes and looked at your work?
Uh-huh.
Because that's going to show you the value difference. And I don't think it takes it doesn't take your
Yeah.
eyes off entirely. People are going to be drawn to that yellow part first.
Mhm.
I guess maybe the question is, how can you draw their eye back on? What can you bring forward that might be more interesting? You know what I mean? Maybe
Mhm.
even a little bit of white would be an interesting way to chill it out. But I think it's kind of good in that little thing. It kind of gives visual boundaries so people's eyes don't wander too much.
Actually, I just darkened in the top of the V, and that actually brings it right back to center. So,
Perfect. See, it is kind of a game of looking at something and being like, is this going to be distracting or is it going to be helpful? You know?
mhm.
Are you finding, Jean, the abstract work is helping you in other areas? 'Cause
Yes.
I can see
Yes.
that in your work. I can see that your work is getting better, stronger compositionally, particularly because of the work you're doing in this class.
Well, it gives you a different view of it. Your brain looks at it differently.
Yeah, this definitely is very freeing because like as opposed to drawing a face where I'm trying to make it perfect.
Right.
This is happening organically. I'm not trying to copy something.
Right, but you are attuning to composition.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I feel like I can see.
I mean, there's
that.
thought in it. It's not just happening. But
Right, I can see that playing out in your work in the other classes. It's interesting. I just wondered if you felt it. I totally am seeing it as your teacher in the other places,
Uh-huh.
but I was curious if you saw it too.
Now I'm just going to do some crazy scribbling. It's always interesting how this like water soluble graphite will look shiny almost. Yeah.
Baby. Oh.
Well, we're naturally petering, and I do need to get my brain into my next move.
Do it. Do you want me, Chris, did you want me to join you?
No,
Go for you?
no,
Okay.
it's totally fine. It's going to be a short meeting. It literally is just to go over to the rubric and show them how to use the documents.
All right. All right, I'm gonna stop the recording here.
And I don't want you to go into the meeting because you're an artist being
Oh,
very.
good point. Yes, yes,
That's
absolutely.
the reason Charlotte's